Will, you want to get us started?
Yeah, okay. Everyone, welcome to Four Checks Cast. Uh, I'm Will. We've got Kevin, Tim, and Justin, just as always, with us today. Um, I believe we are Canada's this weekend, correct? You guys are leaving tomorrow.
Canada
Yep.
is this weekend.
Cool. So at some point tonight, we're going to be talking about a little bit of the regionals that have happened these past couple weeks. But first, there was a ban. Okay, there was an article titled "Banlist Update" this week.
Yeah.
Uh, However, there were no changes.
Mm-mm.
Maybe we can get a little bit of conversation going, see how everyone feels about that. Do we
Yeah.
think this is a good thing? Do we think it's a bad thing? Do we want to join the doomers that this is the worst thing ever made, or is it just another Tuesday?
Yeah, it is the first Tuesday of the month, and that we know you know what that means, except that it was actually Wednesday because there's a holiday on
Yeah.
Monday.
Yeah, I think I don't remember if we talked about this last year. They certainly didn't have to ban anything, and so they didn't ban anything, right?
Right.
There's always a chance that they ban something they don't have to ban. They've done that a number of times, right? There's a few cards that they could ban at any time that'd be like, yeah, that makes sense, and there'd be people happy to see it go, and people saying like, hey, I didn't really need to do that, but okay, right? The combined firepower was like that for a while. VMU
Right.
Yeah.
was like that for a little while.
Twisting
right?
Azure.
Yeah, cards they didn't necessarily like have to hit at any point in time, and eventually just decided, we're going to get rid of this. So there's always a chance that happens, and that's always what people will get their hopes up or whatever if they're really into banning one of those cards. But they decided to stay put for now.
I will say this is like this is in a while the most violent fervor I have seen towards a ban list, like having one exist, having something get banned. Like you had some of this last month already because people were already getting tired of Nine Titans and Unyielding and all of that. But this was the one where like I heard people actually saying like, and I think they were joking and being sarcastic when they were saying it. But I had multiple people on the Let's Talk UVS server, the Let's Talk UVS team, going, we're not playing the game until these bans happen after this ban list dropped. Now, do I believe them? No. But it is interesting because I can't remember a level of that upsetness, for lack of a better word, from a ban list in a while. So
yeah, I like the expression. I think I heard it from Tam that a lot of folks kind of have a cold right now, and we're not quite sure exactly what's going on. A lot of the metrics look good or whatever. We've seen all this diversity, but people aren't necessarily excited to play the game. We can point to, Turtles is on different symbols than the last bunch of sets, so cards don't necessarily line up in decks we're ready to play, or the characters don't feel inspiring or don't like grab you in the same way that other like characters that are already in the metagame do or whatever. Two symbols or whatever.
Yeah, there's a lot of even just like straight up open conversation about people just like I'm trying to narrow like what is it that's really bothering me right now, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just
Right.
like I just not feeling it with this format. What is it this? Is it that? Is it because the Godzilla stuff's still good and has been forever, and we're tired of it already or whatever? There's all sorts of different like ideas and reasons you could cook up, so it's hard to come up with something specifically.
I think it also doesn't help that it feels layers deep, right? Like the three that feel like at the top of the food chain in terms of people have talked about, I have heard Unyielding should get banned.
In terms of specific cards, yeah.
Specific cards. The top of the food chain of we should kill these cards. Unyielding, either Nine Titans or Rock Barrage. Different people have different opinions of which of that package should die, but something in that package should die. And then Deku 6 should get an errata. Those are like the three top of the food chain. There are other ones, but those are the ones I've really heard a lot of. But I keep looking at it and going, guys, what was the regional before AOT3? My brain wants, it's not St. Louis. What was
Louisville?
No.
Before that for that.
Albuquerque.
It was Albuquerque
maybe
because
too, yeah.
it was.
I look at it and I
go,
go, guys, the Rodon and King Ghidorah finals match that was 3 hours where they both built to 30, and a lot of people were complaining how long that game took.
Yeah.
Not a single card in either deck has been hit.
But by the same token, right? What was hit was Nick Reagan.
Yeah, Nick Reagan was hit.
And the same way you could say what a lot of people, including UVS Games people, are saying now, like, well, we just need to give people time to learn how to play against these backup decks if they're going to be, top of the food chain dogs. We just need to figure it out. they certainly were allowed to say, they could say in that hypothetical situation, that's okay. People will figure out how to play against these things.
Sure.
Right.
And I think I think
part of the reason why people weren't doing that very well at that event is because they were all terrified of Nick Reagan roasting them before they got a chance to play the game.
But I think my point is something different, which is that like I see people seem to suggest the idea that if we hit these 3, the format's immediately better. And I go, is it? 9 Titans, sure, that just lowers the power of one specific deck. Same thing with Deku 6. But I look at like people talking about hitting Unyielding, and I go, what does the format look like without Unyielding? Because it is a meta warping format, but is the meta necessarily better if this card doesn't exist?
Like, I think that the Albuquerque, like one of the dangers of results-oriented thinking, right?
Sure.
Is the idea that whatever got first place is the number one deck in the room. It was the most powerful deck. It was the best deck. It was always kind of fated to win, right? It's kind of the idea of results-oriented thinking. And it's a lie for a lot of reasons. It is a deception that you can impose on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that happens is you get metagame effects, where you get the storyline for me for Albuquerque is that Nick Reagan was Yahtzeeing everyone in the room except for these really hard wall decks, and then the wall decks floated close enough to the top that they got to leapfrog Nick Reagan to the actual final podium, and then kind of the relative lack of offense in those decks, the relative lack of the virtue of getting people dead, which isn't punished so much by Nick Reagan because he's a 5-hand size that's not playing very much defense. He just says, yeah, I'll just take 5 and try to kill you, but then the wall decks stay alive. That plan doesn't necessarily work in the wall mirror, especially if you draw somewhat poorly or whatever might happen. And then you get a 3-hour finals. If you run that tournament back without Nick Reagan in it, I don't know if you necessarily need a Unyielding Destruction for some other decks that are sort of a little more porous in their defense and a little bit stronger in offense that can actually, Ghidorah isn't crushing every tournament, right? It's not that Ghidorah crushes every tournament. It's that he's part of a meta game where there's a push and pull. And if you have a really, really strong offense that eats everything that's less defensive than Ghidorah and Rodan, then those decks are the ones that stay alive to prey on the Nick Reagan decks.
Right.
I get you.
I kind of want to double back to something that you said, Justin, because it reminds me of a different game that I played competitively, not card game, but you said something about like banning something without knowing what will rise up to take its place. Basically, you said it in different words, but that's basically your idea.
I agree.
That's true for any ban decision.
Yeah. Because because I was playing Pokemon competitively a long time ago, like on Smogon, where they do singles. And a lot of the times when people would complain about every single new like strategy or team that would come out, the general reason for not banning certain things was because they keep other things in check, right? Like you ban what is it? I think Landorus. You ban Landorus, and all of a sudden, like the thing that it's there to counter is now the best team in the room, and then you're gonna have to ban that, and it's just a slippery slope. Now, do I know if UVS Games is thinking that far ahead with these choices? I don't know, right? I'm not going to say yes or no either way. I just don't know. But there is that to think about.
Yeah, I think for me, kind of what I was suggesting with that is I think we get a problem as players sometimes, and it's easy to understand why. We're in the trenches. We're the ones playing this every day, dealing with these decks every day. And when decks feel unfun, they feel unfun. I have to ask myself sometimes when I look at these things and I go, how many people have thought about what the game will look like post banlist? Because when you're a designer, when you're a banlist curator, you need to be asking that question. And like, yeah, I have a hard time defending Unyield or 9 Titans and Deku 6 because I think those decks are just a step over the curve on power level. And like I think they're gatekeeping too many decks. But I look at something like Unyielding and I go, I see a real trade-off here of this card existing versus not existing in the format. And yeah, it sucks that it exists. Does it suck if it doesn't exist more right now? And I don't really know the answer to that. And I don't know if anybody who's really been complaining about it.
I don't know. As a dinosaur, right?
Yeah.
The idea that you need to be prepared to beat people that are going to try to dirtle and build to 20 foundations is a tale as old as time. That has been a fact of just about every format except for like 1 year where Deadlock was absolutely at its peak degeneracy.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It is always been a thing, and that's not necessarily a positive, right? There were times where we opined about, man, people getting in the game are just not going to know how to deal with this stuff, and it's going to be really demoralizing or whatever. But like, the game has never like collapsed on itself because
Sure.
the top end competitive scene is some number of people trying to dirtle, and then the people that are trying to fight it usually coming out on top.
I like that you mentioned the really high powered deadlock, because Daniel asks a great question in chat. Do you think Unyielding is serving as a patch for not having what we would call real deadlock, quote unquote? Or do you think that we
I
have
don't
real
think
deadlock
it's not that fast
in the format?
They don't. Nothing is that reactive.
What do you mean?
They didn't look at Albuquerque and be like, boy, let's put Unyielding Destruction.
Oh, I don't mean when I say that. I don't mean like design intent. We designed it to be a patch. I mean, conceptually, do you think like it is serving the role that normally really good deadlock would serve, or do you think it's going too far above that?
I mean, I think that it's very sideways from the precise role of deadlock. I can see the connection of that this is doing something to check people who are trying to play a very, very passive game. Where if you're playing a very passive game and you're not like exactly Mimic, you're going to get severe. You're going to lose all the like. If I spend 4 turns building foundations, like my Hanji deck did at Worlds, and then you Unyielding me, it's like, well, boy, I just played like half a turn instead of 4 turns. That's really bad for me.
Right.
You have to be willing to make some kind of proactive progress outside of that domain of just building foundations, and that's distantly related to what Deadlock does. I think that actually, in a real way, it has exactly the same problem as Deadlock does, where if I can create a stalemate and break the symmetry of Deadlock because your Deadlock is weaker than mine, or my Deadlock is like risky gamble and destroys your Deadlock, then I get to play a game ungated by this thing, and you don't, and then I get to run away with it very easily.
Mm-hmm.
And Unyielding in the same way says, well, if I break parity where I'm building all these backups and assets, and I reset for 4 foundations, now you're suffering, and I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
I think one cool thing Unyielding does is that suppose Unyielding were the best card in the game right now, right? It has very parasitic, it has very cannibalizing effect where you build your deck that exploits the crap out of Unyielding Destruction, and so does everyone else. And you show up for the tournament and you play Unyielding Destruction mirrors, and it is actively detrimental to have this crappy 2 mid-6 in your deck.
Yeah.
Because now it's as asymmetric against everyone else as it is, or everyone else has a board that is asymmetrically impacted by Unyielding, so why even bother playing it?
Right.
And then you see people showing up with decks that are like Unyielding Destruction decks, like Hanji or Mimic or whatever, and they're just not playing it, or they're playing their sideboard, and then they get to eat a bunch of equity, and then you get the metagame effects, right? Where now, okay, maybe someone shows up with a deck that gets owned by Unyielding Destruction, but they wiggle into the bracket and they start playing against people who cut Unyielding from their decks, and now you see churn in the metagame. This is a very blunt instantiation of metagame churn, but I think that's one of the positive things that game designers like in their games, where you don't have one top deck that stays on top of the metagame forever, and you see different decks coming in and out every week. That's kind of what we're seeing with these regional results. You can fiddle over how meaningful they necessarily are. How close to the truth of the metagame they are if
Right.
everyone were in a global field or whatever. But
I like one idea you suggest there, which is like, I think it's interesting of Unyielding versus a lot of the other cards. Like 9 Titans, Deku 6, again, those are just powerful. They are specific for specific kits, incredibly powerful. If you're playing Hanji, you would never cut 9 Titans. If you were playing, Deku 6 has an inherently powerful game plan. There are ways to play around
some
it.
people play Deku 6 while cutting the other side of Deku 6 that people complain about. They just never flip.
I think Unyielding is a really interesting one, that you are kind of right that it's simultaneously a meta warping card, but unlike Deku 6 and 9 Titans, which I think are just universally going to be strong cards in a lot of situations, Unyielding warps it to the point where if people start building around Unyielding, it becomes an actively bad card, which is very different than what a lot of the other ones we're talking about. If it is not getting its value because people are planning for deck builds around dealing with the situation it puts you in, then it's like it's a 2 mid-6 5 diff, and that kind of sucks. That's not a good stat line for a 5 diff.
Yeah, I remember someone, I think it was just today, posted an Earth Godzilla list, and one of my advices was just make sure you have 4 attacks in your sideboard that can come in for unyielding.
Yeah.
Right.
If you're up against something that doesn't care.
Right.
It's one of the reasons I run activate the coordinates in my sideboard for Hanji is because like the main deck right now that really doesn't care about unyielding is other backup decks. And boy, is it good to swap out those 4 unyieldings for 4 activate the coordinates and call it a day. To the point where
Mimic's getting a bit of a bad rap right now. I think he's getting underestimated.
I think
for
Mimic
sure.
has potential. I don't think it's going to show up enough where my sideboard needs to have much
Right.
for it. But I do think like if someone really wanted to go with Mimic, and that might be something that we talk about in just a moment. I think if someone wanted to go far with Mimic, they in any region, they could go really far with him. I mean, we just saw it in OCE.
We can a funny metaphor to waste our time with. So I was thinking about like roguelikes and or like Path of Exile type games. Even like Genshin does this to an extent. Like you Path of Exile, you have this huge skill tree, you have all these different builds, all these different things you can do. But in any given patch, there will be league mechanics and there will be bosses. And things that roguelikes and games like Path of Exile do is they give bosses affixes. Right? So any given boss, you're always going to need to have a certain amount of offense and a certain amount of defensive capabilities. But depending on the patch and the fight and the whatever, you might, this boss reflects elemental damage, or this boss, makes this not matter, or this boss, makes you have to have a lot of mobility or whatever. And, card game metas aren't entirely different from that, right? For a lot of the same reasons, right? The reasons that these video game makers make things like that is so that, if you only just had to like meet the DPS check, you might just keep playing the same build for a really long time and it might get stale. Even if new stuff's coming out, you don't want to rely solely on your new stuff being cool to get people to move around and do different things. Mm-hmm. And in a card game sense, if you have, different, strong threats or whatever, different like rules binding different metas, then that makes people think about, different things that they might need to build or different approaches that they might need to take to address this meta. And now, the same way, just like in video games this happened, in card games this happened, you might look at this season's affixes and be like, this is lame. I don't like this. This stops me from doing a lot of things I like to do.
Yeah.
And you can argue, how much of that do we need in universes, right? A lot of people's favorite formats are the ones that don't have a lot of these. Mm-hmm. But if you had a format like that in perpetuity for like 2 years straight, would people get bored of it? I don't know. It's never happened, right? There's always been something silly coming wrong every other set at the very least. Right? But so this is just like another one of those, I think, on paper, it's fine. There's a lot you can do. We saw a lot of creative things in these regionals of people finding different ways to play by this format's rules that I think is pretty cool. And there's a fair amount of space for that. It's just, you can also look at it and be like, yeah, but this sucks, right? I want to build 8 foundations and use murderous escalations and peace and offense together. And now you need a way to circumvent that now.
I am really interested to see after EU and OCE, and I know the meme is haha international regions, but like genuinely, I'm very curious to see if Canada, how many of the people at Canada are going to look at EU and OCE's lack of backup deck representation relative to what we saw at Louisville and lack of unyielding. I think we saw one that I'm aware of make it very far across the 2 regions that was running unyielding, which was the Mimic deck. There might be more, so don't quote me on that. It'll be interesting to see if people see that and go, oh, I don't need to worry about these decks as much. And so when I'm building my last minute changes for Canada on Saturday, will I be running, say activate the coordinates or web of fire or animus shots as much, things like that. I don't know. It's one of those things where people everyone is sitting in their little huts right now, making their meta calls of what they think they're going to see at Canada. And then other people are just saying they're going to jam what they're going to jam and not worry about it. Some people are here to play peak universes. And it'll be interesting to see.
I think my broad sense of the format is that there are a lot of threats and they are formidable threats, right? Like there's a rational, sane individual who's like, yeah, Hanji's not that good. She's free, whatever. I don't give a shit. Deku, he's I probably over dismissed Deku. I think I'm probably too much of a he's mid.
Just kill him.
Yeah, just like play the game at him, and he's not that good. So maybe that's I don't know. That's really my impression. If you do something really sick, it's probably better than Deku. But Deku's like very solid, and I don't know.
I can't wait for Broberg to show up next Thursday and find out his 2 losses in Canada are to 2 Deku 6s.
No, I mean that'd be great. That'd be good. Like it's better than losing to 2 Reiners.
True.
I've done that. But I mean, hey, Reiner's I was ahead of the curve, honestly. Like clearly, OCE regional winner Reiner now. Reiner Braun won. What was I saying? Yeah. So I mean, they're formidable threats, and I think that it's not necessarily easy to structure any arbitrary deck to clearly have an edge, even theoretically, against all the top decks right now. And it's hard to predict what all you're going to face in a tournament, especially because there is such a huge open field of weird B tier stuff like Donnie or like Mimic. I mean, like in the genre of decks as good as Mimic, it's kind of out in the field as Mimic. Like Mimic got an errata. We used to have erratas kill characters forever if they got ever adjusted.
Reiner's errata too.
Yeah, Reiner is
technically
exactly errata too.
Not technically, he was literally errata for.
It just doesn't. It doesn't feel like it because he never showed up to a regional. He never had like a full event where he was.
Yeah, it was like a day 0 type thing.
It was no,
or like
it was,
day 1.5 or something.
It was like
we got to play against like Ryan Field doing some bullshit at one event, and everyone locally was like, "Yeah, okay, this is fair."
It was one. It was one community event for Boar's Hat Gaming,
like a couple weeks of locals, and everyone was done.
And they looked at Mika-san Reiner and said, "Jesus Christ, we can't have these two keep existing." Ended up hitting both of those.
Oh no! Wait, I could play. Ryu is peak universes. He really is.
Oh yeah,
you get a brainstorm, dude.
Yeah, it's literally not universes. But
speaking of the EU and OCE regionals, I think people have decks they want to talk about. Will, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah. So I chose a deck from the OCE top 8 because it's a deck that I jammed for a little bit between AOT2 and Heroes of Exandria. It's Eren Yeager, Humanity's Hope. For those who are not accustomed to this character, he is a 630 fire order character. Enhance your attack, mill 3. Your attack is +1 speed for each Fury card milled, and +1 damage for each Titan card milled. He gets +1/+1 if it's both. Response after an attack deals damage. If you have 25 or more cards in your discard pile, add 1 Titan card from your discard pile to your hand and transform. And then the transform side gives your Fury and or Titan attacks +4 damage statically. And then enhance commit, add 1 card from your stage to your hand. The next attack you play this turn gets -3 difficulty and +3 speed. This dude's tight. I've been messing around with him. I stopped before AOT3 because I found other decks I thought were really cool. But so I don't know what he got in AOT3, and honestly, it doesn't really look like they're playing much.
Answer might be killing the old ways.
And fervent demeanor.
Yeah, another Fury Foundation and Unrelenting Advance is seeing just a little bit of, but he's a very good fit for this Eren for sure.
I do think it's very funny that 2 of the cards that he got in AOT3 are effective reskins of Endeavor 3 cards or Endeavor 2 cards.
Yeah,
Ignited Arrow and Press Conference. It's very fun.
True.
But it's cool. He just slams a ton of damage. Sometimes he gets the lucky mills and just murders you before he even flips.
I am happy to see a feels good card like Unrelenting Advance, make it into a top cut event.
If I could mute you, I would.
No, I really think this list is dope. I know people did haha OCE, but I think there's a lot to go for in terms of this. Just is a deck that is smacking you in the face with a ton of good advantage. Fiery Stare helps you find aggression. Unrelenting helps you find aggression. Once you find aggression, you get to play it really cheap because you have the lethal slashes, the besiege, and the teaming with the attack titans. Yes, let me see if I can pull up the list for y'all. Let me see which one of my ones. Here's the one that I do for that.
I can link it in chat too.
Yeah. But I can do it right here.
Your question is the Metaversus link?
This is the UVS. I literally just pulled up the webpage on UVS Ultra.
Oh, you're right. Let me go find the one on Metaverse.
Yeah, I think it's got like really cheap advantage. I also think Grishas is really sick in this deck.
I love Grishas.
Is
It's
everything
so good,
a Fury? Everything.
No.
No, except for Haymaker.
Haymaker isn't, but yeah, everything gives stats on the front side and receives +4 damage on the back side.
And boy, Grisha's picking up Lethal Slash. That sounds kind of sick. I like this a lot.
Yeah, picking up Lethal Slash and teaming is a huge deal. And
Yeah.
again, putting 4 damage on Lethal Slash and teaming is a big deal.
Yeah.
There are a few. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I like this Eren. I look at him often because I very often find myself trying to play like Fire plus Order for one reason or another, for two things, and so it's been kind of neat. I think, cynically, or perhaps as a positive, this is a beneficiary of a format where unyielding has scared people off of playing things like Rodan that just want to wall up and block everything. Wall up and block everything should be this kind of deck's weakness.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if it's just not there, well,
Yeah,
heck, I think Raphael's the same way. The Raphael that made top cuts in this event, that deck probably struggles into something like Rodan. I would think, maybe not, right? Maybe it's just too fast or whatever. But he's not there. we can just play our 6 hand size aggros that are efficient and find cards and have good sets, and we can play 6 hand size aggro that don't necessarily have the Godzilla problem of you might just like totally fail to draw them. Right, you can play the ones that get to play a bunch of cards that help you find stuff because you don't need your character to have a nuke on his face.
Right.
I also do want to point out that one, how many foundations this deck gets that has either Fury or Titan on it, which is kind of sick.
Also, Titan training is really funny because it checks the 6 and gives +1/+1 if you mill it.
But we get what, 12 hits in our foundations, really 16 hits because Lust for Battle is basically +1 speed.
Yeah. So one thing I wish this deck was playing, and I can't remember the name, but Broberg would probably know it. It's the Order Attune card that does a thing when it hits your discard pile. You were playing it in
Eren's Trial.
Oh, Eren's Trial.
Eren's Trial. Like, I'm a little sad that it's not running Eren's Trial just for more hits like that. But I mean, I could see a world where there just isn't space.
Yeah, it's definitely a real trade-off of this was a big thing in the firepower decks, right? Where you have, I want to have the most things that are really cool if I hit them off firepower, but I'm not always resolving firepower, and you have to draw your opening hand and get a decent turn 1 build. And especially I think on if his state memory serves, I think the Order symbol really doesn't have stack outlets in your stage. So if you build an Eren's Trial in a deck like this, it's just going to be in your stage. And
I'm sure you have like random 1 diffs, right? But not like sexy ones.
Also,
there's all sorts of sack for damage, sack for speed.
Yeah, it being a 3 diff along with Sacrifice for the Cause when you're running for Lethal Slash is a little spooky, so I can kind of get that.
There is one more card I want to point out because, again, you hear people talk about Smack to OC, but there is a lot of thought put in this sideboard. One card I want to see played more in Canada, if your character has fire. If you are scared about Deku 6, My Fizz Solves Problem is a crazy card.
2 main, 2 board.
That is where I am. This does feel like a hella 2 main 2 board. Like, it's not bad when you're not against Deku. Like, flip for -1, 2, 3 speed.
I mean, still good against random 4-check decks too. Resurrected Titans is a bazillion speed.
There are plenty of situations where this is still getting at minimum -2 speed, potentially more. Or on the flip side, it could be responsive. You're playing like an Unrelenting Advance that you want to connect 2 speed. You're probably not doing that too much, but it is a theoretical thing you can do. So I do not hate this card existing in the decks at all. And I think it does show a lot of thought of, hey, what is the control? You mentioned the wall decks like Rodan and stuff not exist as much, but what's the wall deck we're still scared of here? We're still scared of Deku 6. How do we deal with the Deku 6 deck? Oh, if we make sure we can reset its speed to 4, you play 4 of these, you're in a pretty good position.
It certainly makes him have more answers than he wants to have. I mean, if we really wanted to target him out, we'd also run Desperate Struggles, right? And just really go for the neck. But the thing about Fist against Deku 6, it can also turn your 0 speed into a 4 speed if he hits it, right? Oh yeah, this one's order. Never mind, we can't do that.
Yeah, it's order for roughly 6-card, principally go touch coaching, but
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that one was that deck is pretty cool. Any final thoughts before we move on to the next one?
yeah, my personal pet card, I love Fear Swings in this kind of deck. It lets you make an extra control check, not from nothing, and then it tutors Besiege, and Besiege is tasty.
True. I mean, also tutors Grisha's that worst case that can get you an attack later. So
Yeah.
Ooh.
Tutor sack for the cause in some cases. Like there's a lot of good targets in this deck.
That +1 low block on Grisha's makes me so happy. I just love this card. Grisha Tech Titan's so cool.
I like that card a lot.
All right. Broberg, what was your list for the week?
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight Ives deck that won the Reiner Braun deck. I'm the resident Death one track these days, and I just like so the thing that I really enjoyed with this deck is that it's kind of playing fundamentals in so it's a death deck. It's sort of putting damage on the table and saying, hey, do you have the right block zones? And the high-low blocking stuff. I watched the finals, and he went a long way just kind of by putting Battle Or Release in the card pool and challenging the Mimic player to have the right high blocks, and then followed up with Tri-Gravity Beam. It's kind of there's 3 attack zones in the cards, but there's really more than 3 attack zones. If you think of like discard is sort of like an attack zone, where you need specific cards to defend against discard. You think about throws, you need cards to defend against throws. It's kind of really in every zone, and it's hard to predict where you want to be defending against this kind of stuff. And then it's kind of bullying you by bullying your stage. So if you're overextending to get your stage developed, then Reiner hits you with the fat numbers just kind of coming down on unpredictable zones. And yeah, I mean, clearly it worked out well.
As we are talking about this, I did just see that Ives is in the chat. Ives, if you wanted to have us like what your first of all, yeah, congrats on the win. But if you want to tell us what your elevator pitch was for like why you chose this deck, I would love to hear it. Because I was a Reiner 1 stand for a long time. Now I was playing really hard D build. Thank you, Brisbane, for the subscription. And yes, I will remember my jersey. I was doing really hard D build, so I'd love to see why you went for this more like toolboxy, like maybe toolbox wrong word.
There's still a lot of D build here.
There's a lot of D build, but this sort of more classic I'm playing good strings version. Anyways, while he's giving that, if you guys could share your thoughts on this deck.
Yeah, and I think this might be presumptuous of me, but if the rules of the format, one of the rules of the format anyway, is don't get completely clowned on by unyielding destruction. And if you want to be like the old 4-check Reiner that wants to build to 8, 9, 10 and then start passing these big Gigantor attacks, then that card's going to eat your lunch. And so we say like, okay, well, let's play Colossus SWAT and let's play some stuff that we can pass on a limited number of foundations that can pressure them on the back of a turn where they just blew themselves down to 4 and maybe built a couple.
Yeah. I think you see Ives just something like that. I like what he says here, that the backup decks do need their foundations to pass checks, and Deku needs the foundations for damage pumps, which
foundation destruction is good against both of these things.
Yeah, foundation destruction in decks that either need a lot of foundations or decks that are trying to play the game on very low foundation counts. D-Build feels way better into. D-Build is usually at its weakest against decks that are comfortable sitting at like 8, 9, or 10 foundations, because it's pretty easy to stay in that range, especially once you enter the late game, even against a pretty active D-Build deck.
Yeah, and if your dream is to have 8 foundations and they make you have 6, like, all right, I need to check a little bit better.
Yeah,
right?
And I can live with that. But if you go, instead of 4 foundations, I have 2 or 3, that's a lot harder. And if you're saying I need 30 foundations to kill, because 20 foundations to kill because I'm Deku 6, this keeps pinging me for 1 or 2 a turn, that's going to be kind of hard game to play against. So I think this is like a really, really smart meta call. Like the kind of meta call, I wouldn't be surprised to see a deck like this, whether it's Reiner 1 or someone and its facsimile, show up in high rank tables at Canada, if assuming the meta remains relatively the same.
Yeah, and just shout out also to Mikasa's Fatal Cleave, the card that has been. I'm gonna spare the podcast my analogy, but it has been. It's really good if you're playing the backup decks and you want them to suffer hit them with some Mikasa Fatal Cleaves right to the backups.
The dumbest.
I've been on a very heavy Dex with Animus Shot and Fatal Cleave kick for the past couple of months, and Kevin's been on a playing lots of backup Dex kick.
The dumbest I have ever been at a tournament might have been when I did not read Mikasa's Fatal Cleave against Tim Keefe and was like, this card's it's like some stupid rare card. He's just running some jank stuff. Sure, I'll let it ping me for my hitch for 1 damage. It doesn't do anything. And then he goes, all right, now pop your loyalty to a friend's. And I went, oh.
You went, what?
Yeah, it's from AOT3. Everyone knows AOT3 card. Like, there's only like 3 cards that matter that said.
Yeah.
This doesn't have infinity.
Everyone knows if it's not a UR, they don't print good effects on non-URs anymore. It
doesn't have that silver border.
Yeah.
Normally I hate debuild decks. Like, I don't think they're fun to play against, and I adamantly despise them and will talk shit on them. However, I do like Mikasa's Fatal Cleave, and this deck gets a pass because
this is also a debuild
Acid
deck.
Splash needs momentum. Like aside from Tromp, like all the debuild takes some work aside from eventually flipping your character, right?
Right.
And this is also a debuild deck that says I'm going to try to kill you.
Yes.
It's got the Tri-Gravities. It's got the Luna Rings. It is sacrifice. Like, this is not a deck that's saying I'm going to debuild you 4 or 5 in a turn and just try to survive forever as you don't have foundations to play a game plan.
This is a deck that wants to fight with you. And you can, I think, genuinely, you can probably beat this deck by just being really strong on your fundamentals and blocking it really well. Yeah. Like, our stereotype Rodan. If there's a Rodan deck that's going to play 4 foundations and then draw 4 foundations and all draw cards and then just hold blocks forever. They could probably outlast this deck. Certainly could outlast all the target flips and stuff and get their stage rebuild after whatever number of resets. But is anyone playing that deck in this metagame?
And I think a deck that wants to scrap with you, but is instead using debuild to hit key pieces that are going to make your fundamentals and blocking better is a hella cool deck to have in the format. So yeah, I think this deck was really cool. Tim, what was your deck for this week?
So I want to talk about Hawks, and let's pull up Avacyn's list, because that's what I've looked at a little bit the most. But there were, 3 Hawks in the top 16. I think this was, one of the small like mini pocket teams decided that this was the deck that they were bringing.
Yeah,
and kind of replacing Rodan's role in this tournament, kind of as the defensive speed up, speed down deck, but deciding to play Hawks for this purpose instead of Rodan for a myriad of unique qualities. And I'm going to invent a narrative that may just completely not be what they were thinking. Right.
Sure.
Right. But, when I look at this deck, I think about, rules of the meta, right? Rules of this format are like, don't get got by unyielding, try not to get got by sweeping daggers, have some semblance of a plan into Deku and Pony, right? That's kind of the top level things to worry yourself about. And Hawks can present, especially these versions that have just like the only 5s is Featherstorm, they can present a pretty meaningful attack string on a limited number of foundations. Just the 4 is fine. You're playing you're playing 1 or 2 4 diffs, and then you're playing these 1 diff attacks that are 4 mid-6s, and you can operate on that basis. And if they Beast Titan attack, if they Rock Barrage you get to Fierce Wings for something. Right, you get to, of course, Fierce Wings for more Hawk's Feathers if you need to, and play even more, 1 difficulty 4 speed for 4s.
Right.
And so you can, and Hawks, because the feathers can provide a lot of minus speed from hand, he can defend himself on a small stage pretty well.
Yeah.
So he's able to play the game in that space better than most really defensive decks of this ilk.
Mm-hmm.
And then you look for the sweeping daggers targets in this deck. There aren't any really that are that exciting, right? They're just not there. And you think about Deku, and that's probably a little more challenging, but you have, again, Feather saying minus 6-7 speed, whatever it adds up to, means that he needs to go that much higher if he wants to play something that actually gets through the land against you. If he wants to go into Deadlock, your Deadlock as Hawks is great.
Yeah.
Your Feather control Deadlock, the Feather Sword / Deadlock is even really good. And so you've got a bunch of stuff to make that difficult. And then this build is main decking Strength and Beauty to fight the ponies and Mikasas of the world. It's just,
yeah,
it has all of the stuff to try to operate in this metagame and a core strategy that is good enough to compete.
I also think, speaking in this regard, One thing that is clear, this is one of those decks that got a big buff from TMNT specifically. Like we're running 4 Equipment Heist, we're running 4 Massive Mutant Machine. Equipment Heist has been one of those cards, I think when people saw it, they wanted to do a ton of fun stuff with it. But it was like, how often, it had the City Rampage problem on steroids of like, you need to find it plus 3 attacks to do the thing you want to do. So it feels like it's going to be inconsistent. Maybe Elder Togro can grab 1 attack to make it better. But
Bro,
that
I
feels
love
iffy.
the narratives around Equipment Heist about how it's going to ruin the game because it's an infinite loop, and there are infinite loops now in Standard, and infinite loops are such categorically monstrous things to have in the game.
Yeah.
Hey, we'd get it 1 infinite Equipment Heist deck into 10th place, but yeah, that's about the best we've seen.
Yeah, and here we have 3x pristine swordplay, an infinite enabler of choice, and there isn't an infinite in this deck because there's only 1 airship.
We would rather Equipment Heist for
better
boat.
things to do.
No, actually, the 1 airship does
you
let
only
it
need
infinite.
1.
You only need 1 because it.
Yeah, because you just sack it and build the same one.
It's an enhanced. Okay.
You-
okay.
Yeah, you need 2
you-
pristines, not 2 airships.
You need 2 pristines. So it can do the infinite when we want to do the infinite, but we don't really need the infinite in this deck.
No.
Because the other option we have, if we have enough Hawk's Feathers, which we get 2 of them for free, we go Equipment Heist, setting the standards. That, like, this is clearly the better bread and butter ideal combo. You setting the standards, your stuff's now 4. You play your 2 feathers, those are 4 mid-6s. You Equipment Heist on the 3rd one. You get Mega Mutant Machine. That's now a 9 mid for 11. That's going to kill people. If you have any more feathers,
we're just
you do
varying
it
speed
more.
and 10 speed moves. Yeah.
Sorry, that's a 10 mid for 11 because he gives another speed when he does that. So he just, and then any additional feathers, sword plays, whatever he plays at that point, you're throwing other 5/5 on by stacking these mutant machines. And if you by some miracle did not kill them after doing +10, +10, or +15, +15, whatever, you now say you have to kill me next turn, or I get to throw 15 speed and damage worth of stats onto something. That sounds horrifying to me. Like
and
that
unyielding does not get rid of mutant machines.
And unyielding is not get rid of mutant machines, so your opponent comes back and unyieldings you. You know, they're a Hanji deck. You go, that's fine. 3 massive mutant machines. I'm swinging 15 damage. And
catch this 1 difficulty 17 mid for 18.
Right.
Yeah. You are going to die. So like, I think this is the deck that I would love to experiment the most out of what I saw from the lists, because it has so much creative ingenuity in its fundamental design. I think it is an exceptional deck. I also love the one of Cerritos, the one of Idenbox as like, hey, we found the equipment heist.
Package.
Yeah, we found the heist. We know we can't kill this turn, or we've already put a lot of mutant machines in there. So we're looking for some additional value pieces. Let's get Cerritos to help us like with our checks and drawing cards, and Idenbox to help us on defense, or Ichigaki because they're going to do some annoying thing with Phantom Threat or whatever. Like there is a lot of clear creativity here. Fierce Wings pick up Fill with Doubt. I do want to call out as another fun thing. We're only running 1 Fill with Doubt. We only need 1 Fill with Doubt because we have 4 Fill with Doubt if it's in the discard pile with Fierce Wings. And if we know we need Fill with Doubt for a matchup, we can put it in the discard pile with Superfly Stomp and then pick it up with Fierce Wings and feel pretty good. So I think this is one of the most creative decks I think exists right now in EU, OCE, or even Louisville. And I was very excited to see this here. We have anyone have final thoughts on this one before we move on to our last deck?
Oh, shout out to Extra Cheese, actually. That's in here. And that's
the
best one.
I am actually genuinely happy with how many TMNT cards are in this one, because before we move on, I do want to say I see some
character that has the good and evil symbols.
I know
there just aren't that many of those,
right?
But we have seen so many people talk about like, oh, TMNT isn't going to influence the meta or anything, and I'm looking at this, I'm like, this is a deck that would not exist.
This is a Turtles deck,
yeah, this is a Turtles deck. Last deck I want to talk about. And I want to shout it out. Not unfortunately, we are only talking about the OCE decks. The EU decks are really cool. I really like the EU decks. I would talk about Deku 6, take this time, except for we all kind of know what he's doing. But I want to shout out someone who I have personally spoken to when I went to OCE. He's a chill dude. Don't ask him about his playmat, but everything else about him is a chill and excellent dude. Bailey got 2nd place with Mimic. Look, I'm an unyielding defender. I'm an unyielding fan. This is a cool deck that gets to utilize unyielding. And one that I think gets ignored in the face of everyone talking about how scary the backup decks are. Mimic gets 2 really good pickups right now. I mean, any of his stuff can be good to pick up, but picking up unyielding, you don't really care if you throw stats on unyielding. You can commit your character for this because if you're picking it up, it's because the value of playing its blitz is going to be so good. And if your opponent seals it or does something to it, you know you can do it again next turn. So it's really hard to build a wall against this deck consistently. And then, of course, even if you don't pick that up on defense, you still have Gigantification Swing, which is Breaker 2. Or on offense, it can string your checks out better. So you can say if they don't keep going in, you can save it for the next turn. We got a ton of just
this attack lineup is cracked.
Yeah, we've got a ton of just generically good Earth stuff. Earthbreaker, this card is Back Alley Haymaker, slightly less good than Back Alley Haymaker, but it's nuts. Titan Cliff, I think it was actually Tam mentioned this in the stream yesterday. Titan Cliff was the most represented attack at OCE. And it's not hard to see why. This attack is really good. It builds in 6 checks. It builds in Finally Free, which gets you a momentum right now. That feels really good for a lot of situations.
You get +2 damage when you commit your airship.
Yeah, I know.
True.
Dude, going like something like Titan Cliff, built in Finally Free, play Trigger Transformation, discard a momentum to build a trigger, so you're going to get to extend your checks. You do something like pick up that Titan Cliff. There's so much cool stuff that this deck's going to get to do. I love pretty much everything about this. I would be very interested to hear why we chose Thrash About over Dragon Strike.
We did notice that that Thrash About gets a check bonus from Gigantification Swing.
Yeah,
that explains it.
Keyword, yeah.
Yep.
If you value the keyword over the deadlock or ability on Dragon
We're a
Strike,
deck that tutors for unyielding destruction. We're not that worried about deadlock.
Yeah, so you know what? I think that actually makes sense. I'm cool. Thrash About makes sense now.
Yeah, there's also a very thin one in that you can't give a sealed attack stun 1 with Tiny Stone Knuckles.
True.
I think Fill a Doubt as a 1-of in the main board is really cute. I like when actions are 1-of in the main board because if you don't see the action in their discard pile, you have to sit there and constantly go, do they have it? Do I lose if I go in with this? You know, if I know I need to fish off of the Titan Cliff to get any value here, do I play Titan Cliff against Mimic knowing he might Fill without my hand? I think that's always fun to see. Anti-Titan Artillery is fun. There's so much I like about this deck. God, like this deck is so cool. I love that we're finding a deck that can use Anti-Titan Artillery and it doesn't say peak only on it. Like that's sick.
Oh yeah, that card
it never
does a
has.
lot of
That
things.
card's actually just good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like target when you deal damage, target commit 1 rival foundation or asset, picking their really good defensive pieces. Sounds great. Free +1 damage, +2 if they're a Titan character. Hell yeah. Oh,
yeah, and
man.
if for any folks in chat, if you didn't know, Anti-Titan Artillery and Earthbreaker is really funny because Earthbreaker destroys not just something that was stunned during the attack, it's anything that was committed during the attack, even during another response to the damage being dealt.
Or them half blocking and having commit foundations for that.
Yep.
I will accept that we are playing City Oh my god, that's cool. Hold on. We can play City Rampage, pick it up with Airship, play it a second time.
Yeah,
or just
that's a.
Yeah. I haven't seen a Rampage deck run Airship. That's sick.
Oh no, the Krista was doing it.
Oh, was it? Okay, fair enough.
Or just Rampage and then like 2 trigger transformations and you pick up the first trigger transformation.
That's probably better than picking up.
Drop 600 damage on their head.
Yeah, I tried that Chris a little bit and my takeaway was like it's better to just pick up an attack.
Sure.
But it is not as funny.
The only thing I question a little bit, our sideboard feels a little, we weren't sure what we were going to face. So we're just running a little bit of everything, a little bit of targeted flip, a little bit of like extra breaker, 1 fill with down.
I will say I'm a fan of having a sideboard that just gives you the options to tune things.
Sure.
Right, like I noticed there's a lot of like half of the sideboard is breaker or breaker adjacent like Fortitude.
Yeah, this is what if I this is like a lot of this is the like what if I face a Pony Mikasa sideboard.
Right.
And then paired with that, it's got some more target flips and some Scanlan's hands to take out a character or a problem card in the enemy stage.
Yeah, I mean, you can scan Lintan Deku specifically, and then go about punching him.
Also, wow, our like quality of 6 checks is getting really good. Takoyaki's a really good 6 check. Finally, Free's a really good 6 check. Ultra Regen, obviously. Inspiring Song is just +2 basically to your check because you can, if you build it for free, you get the +1 and then you get the
Inspiring Song finally 3 is the big pair to me. I think Takoyaki is actually very overrated in Mimic. I think this card is actually like actively bad.
Sure.
Yeah.
But if you're in a situation where you say, I need to find one more attack to kill this turn, I might not have run Takoyaki as a 4 of, but I can certainly see 1 or 2 for the Titan clip to go, hey, maybe I need something here. There was just so much that is cool in this deck. I am really happy to see someone who has not normally run these aggressive of decks. Like, to talk a little bit about the player, Bailey has historically been a Toru 2 main. Way past when people were playing Toru 2. Like, he was playing Toru 2 top cut in younger Toguro meta. It is really, really cool to see someone like that shift to this clearly still got control elements with Unyielding and Gigantification and Tisty surroundings, but clearly more aggressive. I'm going to try to kill you game plan and still do really well with it.
I mean, those Toru decks were certainly trying to kill people.
They were, but
I
think there was a much stronger defensive package in that deck than there is necessarily in this one. As much as I do think this deck still can play a solid defensive game when it needs to. Overall, like I will say, because I believe now Bailey is locked for day 2 because I think 140 was what OC needed for day 2. Obviously,
true,
both Ives and Bailey, you should be on the lookout for. I think what we see from anyone in this top 4, but especially these top 2, is a real creative deck building that could be a real problem at Worlds. If you go OCE and EU players are bad, they're fake. I don't have to worry about them at Worlds. You could very easily get clapped by one of these 2 players. Not to continue my apology tour for the international community, how I treated the national community last year, but I'm very happy with like what both these decks are doing.
I'm waiting for someone to just clip you and cut out the part where it's like, if you think, and then they're gonna clap you. If it's just you saying they're bad.
If it's 140, there's 10 OC players that are day 2 locked, which is I think more than the other 2 regions combined.
That's kind of funny.
That's funny.
I really like it.
Which I guess they've had all their regionals for the year now, right?
Yeah.
As it turns out.
Yeah, we still have 3 regionals for NA. So like NA's gonna get
a handful of people that need to hit up some LCs, but they probably aren't going to get more than like 12.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know if you guys, I know I kind of rambled a ton on this deck. Did you guys have any additional thoughts on Mimic?
I butted in about enough.
Nothing offhand.
It's basically what I expect from a Mimic, except obviously there's a bunch of like flavor, like very personal twist to it that this player has added to it.
In peak universes, you can customize your Mimic deck so many ways.
Yes. Mimic is a deck that, like, if I had my day 2 invite and I was wanting to test a deck that I think might be good in the future, or like might be right there in meta, but I'm not confident, Mimic would be on that list. Like, I think there was probably, and I don't know if this is going to be the list or if it's going to be a list adjusted from this, a tournament winning Mimic deck out there somewhere. Because I think this character is so customizable. I do not think we have hit the ceiling on Mimic anywhere close.
No, there's a decent chance that the actual best unyielding deck is a Mimic. Right. That the actual best one is the one where you can't attack the pieces he's scaling on.
Yeah.
Right.
Trigger is a messed up card when it's got that Mimic response. It's not a fair card.
All right. I know it's a little shorter than most streams, but we're kind of hitting that hour now. Does anyone have any final thoughts on like where the game is at, where these regionals were at, and what you might be thinking as you're walking towards Canada? Because I know 3 of us are going to Canada. Hopefully not walking towards Canada.
That'd be rough.
Yeah, it's on the wrong side of the lake for that.
You guys need to get going if you're gonna walk.
Yeah.
I'm gonna swim. Thank you. I'll see you over there.
I'm all the way from Texas. It's a long walk.
Yeah.
I mean, Peak Universes, dude. It's so good. There's so much to do. There's so much to find.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah,
wide
I
open
think,
world.
you
Stuff
know,
out
we
there,
don't
but
yeah, we don't have a whole lot of like instances of locals or like times to try to find things that are super creative. Yeah, I know Kevin's been in net deck mode for a while. I just like tried out that Kista. I tried to make like an order peak, which isn't the most creative thing in the world.
dude, I just don't have like reserves of intention to like actually sleeve up a deck. I've been cooking 600 things, dude.
But so I'm being kind of lame and just playing like a boring blue chip pony deck at this event. Unfortunately, I just didn't have the time or the cards to try to do anything cool with like Jamie or anything like that. But hopefully in the weeks after this, we'd start like trying to do something interesting.
Absolutely. Which one of us is winning Canada? It'll be one of them because it's not being me. I didn't want to have to take a day off work for this. So unless the top cut rounds go super quickly, I probably can't play beyond top 4. I probably would have to scoop in top 4 to get onto the flight in time. But I only need top 8 for my day 2 of Worlds, so we'll figure it out when we get there.
If only regional pricing compelled you to stay in the event.
It's
a whole other conversation.
I did legitimately look at it and go, if I made it to finals, would I delay my flight to the next day and take a day off work for the better pricing for finals? And I just went, no. No, I wouldn't. No. It's not worth one of my 5 personal days for that. So I think I am excited for Canada, though. I'm excited to see what my deck does. It's going to be a tough tournament. It's going to be a really tight top 8. You aren't going to be able to squeak by on like a top 16 X2 probably near as easily as you might in a different place.
Yeah, it's double elimination the way it should be.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very interesting event because like it's easy to get points. It's hard to do well.
Getting top
yes.
Top 32, if you're a good player, top 32 is probably going to be near free. There's going to be enough people that after they lose top cut are probably going to drop. That as long as you play through, you will probably get top 32 points.
There are only 48 players right now, right?
Yeah.
I could see it maxing out maybe about 60 at most. Maybe
you have to bet like 500, and really like almost the most important thing is you don't get a million draws. If you're up with a deck that gets 4 draws, it'll actually be a challenge to top 32 at that point.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think you can probably pretty comfortably, if you're a top level player, you can feel pretty comfortable about your odds of top 16. Obviously, nothing's guaranteed. I think top 8 is going to be cutthroat. Probably. I mean, at least 2 former or current world champions. The winner of the Wish tournament, Mitchell Chimino's there. Winner of the last NA regional, Calvin's there. There are a ton. The people who are traveling to go are the really good players right now. And so it's going to be a pretty tight top cut.
And then everyone shows up with like B tier decks because they're like, let's just have fun.
Hey, I would love that.
Everyone shows up with
I've had everyone's going to show up with like super fraudulent like backup decks or some nonsense like that. It'll be crazy. 7-hand size aggro in this metagame? Come on.
All right, let's go ahead and shout out our channels as we wrap this up. Broberg.
I'm now Build Universes here on Twitch, and I streamed to like 5 people, but mostly to the restream on your channel since Celeste Rando. And I had a vague intention to like stream again, and then didn't hit live or anything. But maybe I'll do some more on that. And I'm also still on YouTube. Still eventually going to post something there, but not this weekend because Toronto. But
true.
Yeah, Satonis on Twitch. Well, yes, on Twitch, but I don't stream. On YouTube, CETONIS. My most recent video is the box opening from a week or so ago. Next video is probably about time to do. We have the ban list. We're about to have another set of event results. Probably going to do another top prospects. Try to do these like every 6 months. And this one might be a little bit harder given the state of the meta, but we're going to try to find some new novel characters that haven't seen top cuts yet that I think have the potential to do so.
And there's definitely some Turtles layups.
Sure. Always are.
I have got my own Twitch channel now. I'm going to post in the chat because I'm trying to get to affiliate status. So if you guys could do me a favor and drop me a follow on twitch.tv/Double Mulligan. It's more variety channel than this is. I'm doing a little bit of Riftbound with Tam right now. I am doing like randomizer video game stuff like I just did with Broberg and Will. And then on like solo grind nights or when I'm doing solo universes content, I'll be streaming there instead of Vortex Cast because it's really the group channel. So if you want to see me anywhere, you want to see me rant or rave about Kingdom Hearts for the 15th time, please feel free to drop a follow there. And then finally, Will, do you have a channel?
In all technicalities, you could find me at twitch.tv/ArlenEnigma. However, that doesn't mean I'm ever going to. Yeah, I am basically only ever going to stream if I'm doing an archipelago with the boys. There might be a world where I do something with some other friends, but it's going to be very rare, so I would not expect consistent streams. But you can definitely watch my perspective when I do some Pokemon randomizers or anything else with the guys. Outside of that, youtube.com/4checkscast.
That's our VOD
Check
channel.
that out. Yes, that is our VOD channel, and I am keeping it up to date. You can expect videos to be uploaded on the following Monday or Tuesday, assuming nothing catastrophic happens after our streams. And yeah,
and he actually doesn't forget like I do, so it's fantastic.
I mean, I'm literally going to download it after this, and I'm just going to go ahead and upload it to the channel, and then do all the editing and stuff on like Monday.
Hell yeah! All right, that is all for us. We're going to send you over to someone. I am assuming Tam is still rating because we didn't get hit with, or still streaming because we didn't have a rate. Yes, he is. Although I think he's about to stop given he's down to 6 viewers.
I could send us to a voice actress for Hoyo.
No, I think it's funny if he's about to stop that we rate him anyways.
Okay, go for it.
All right, thanks for joining us,
Sam
everyone.
Slade, is it right?
Yeah, Sam. She's
Yeah.
streaming Peak right now.
All right. See you all later. Thank you for tuning in.
Goodbye.
Bye.
I should probably play Peak because it's brand synergy, but
it's very fun. I would totally do